So, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So, yesterday we have explained about Playwright Architecture. Before that, good morning to everyone if you are watching in this video in the morning, and good evening everyone if you're watching this video in the evening. So, yesterday we have discussed about the Playwright Architecture, and the day before video I have uploaded about the Selenium Architecture. Now, to get the difference between those things, in this lecture, today's our agenda was to get the difference between these two really practically by side. I am going to explain you one more time the Selenium architecture and Playwright architecture at top and bottom so that you will get the differences between those and how they're going to communicate with the browsers from the test scripts. And the second point I will discuss is, as I told you yesterday, so I will tell you about the connection that has been made in Selenium architecture and Playwright architecture with server and the clients. And one more thing I'm going to discuss, the next thing, the third thing, which is the stateless connection versus stateful connection. So this is our agenda, guys, today. So without getting late, let's jump into our topic. Let me share my screen first so that I can able to exactly give my best for you people. Yes. So are you able to see my screen right? No. Okay. So as I told you, our agenda today's was so today's our agenda was first to get the difference between playwright architecture, versus Selenium architecture. And the next thing I'm going to discuss about how the connection is going to happen. How the connection is going to happen between server and client of Playwright and Selenium. Playwright and Selenium. Now, the third thing that I'm going to discuss is stateless versus stateful automation. Yeah, sorry, stateless versus stateful connection, not automation. Sorry, guys. So this is our agenda. These are the three topics that I'm going to cover in today's lecture. So without getting late, let me start with Selenium architecture versus Playwright architecture. I have already told you about this Playwright architecture and the Selenium architecture in my previous videos. So I will share the description of those videos in my I will share those link of those particular things in my description. So please, if you haven't watched those videos, please watch that videos. Now I'm not going to explain you that much clearly than what I have explained in the previous video. So it will give you a very clear for you, clarification explanation I have given for you over there. So without getting late, let's start with now the Selenium architecture. So now the first thing is the test engineers will write the test scripts. Let's say we are having some 100 kinds of test scripts. Let's say this is a first test script and this contains some 100 lines of code. So this is the test script. Now how we will get the test script? By using a tool and by using a programming language. Tool is nothing but here our tool is Selenium and my programming language Java. So I have written a test script using Selenium and Java. Now what uh, my code is going to do. So I want to execute this code. I will execute this code to get the result to communicate with the browser, right? So what the Selenium guys have been made. So they have provided client libraries for each and every programming language that Selenium is supporting. So we are going to have Selenium client libraries, guys. So client libraries. So for each and every language, Python, C sharp, so whatever it may be. So for each and every language, Selenium is going to have one own client library. What uh, what is the work of this client library in the sense? These client libraries will convert all our commands of code into HTTP requests, guys. HTTP requests. So all our code, all our whatever the commands that we have written in our code will be converted into HTTP request by using W3C protocol. So this is the protocol that have been followed in Selenium, and now these HTTP requests will be given to the browser drivers. Browser drivers. Yes, these all HTTP requests are going to given to the browser libraries by the Selenium client libraries. Yes, browser drivers, sorry. Now these browser drivers are going to communicate with the real browsers and execute our commands and get back the response. So once after executing the in the browser, these browsers will give the response to the again to the browser drivers, and the browser drivers will give response to the Selenium client libraries, and the Selenium client libraries are going to get the results in our test script. So this is pretty simple about Selenium architecture, guys. Now let me jump over to the Playwright architecture that I have discussed in my previous video. So to get the difference between these two things in one screen, right? Now, so I'm going to explain you about a Playwright architecture. So what we are going to do in Playwright? Anywhere in the automation testing. So whatever the tool and whatever the programming language that you are using, irrespective of tool and the programming language we are using, we are going to write definitely the test scripts, right? So we will write the test scripts by using some tools and the programming languages. Our tool here was Playwright, right? Our tool here was Playwright and our programming language was JavaScript, let's say. Now, so I'm having some 100 commands in my test script. So this is my test script. Now, these 100 commands, the same thing, whatever we have discussed in Selenium client libraries. Playwright also have their own client libraries for each and every programming language. Let's say Playwright is having their own client libraries, guys. Playwright is having their own client libraries. So for each and every language, Java, JavaScript, JS, TypeScript, C Sharp, etc., languages. Now, so here, so I here in the client libraries only we are going to write the code, guys. So the same thing will happen with the Selenium also. So in the client libraries itself, we are going to write the code, and these client libraries will helps us to execute our written code also. Now, what the playwright client libraries are going to do, guys? Here, as per our previous lectures, I have told you these are converted into some protocol messages which are nothing but JSONs. So the all the commands that we have written in our code in Playwright all will be converted into protocol messages like JSONs in 90% of the cases. Now, so what this to where these protocol messages are going to send? These protocol messages are going to send to the Playwright server, guys. So Playwright server. Yes. So what is our Playwright servers? It was Node.js. Node.js is right Playwright server. Now these protocol messages will be sent by the uh, Playwright client libraries to the Playwright server. So to send these protocols, that requires one channel, right? So as we are following the W3C protocol here, so it requires some channel, right? So a channel will be created, or a communication channel will be created, that is a connection will be created, that is WebSocket connection. So through WebSocket connection, the Selenium client libraries are going to send all the protocol messages that have been converted by client libraries to the Playwright server. Now Playwright server is going to communicate with the browser engines directly. Browser engines and browsers. So once after executing all the commands in the browser will give the same response back to the Playwright server, and the Playwright server will give the response through the same uh, WebSocket connection that have been made to the Playwright client libraries, and the Playwright client libraries are going to display the results in our particular test scripts that we have written and executed. So this is guys. So this is the difference between that you can see in one screen, the difference between Selenium architecture and the Playwright architecture. Nothing here. Here the all commands of the code are converted into HTTP requests by using W3C protocol. Here all the things are converted into JSON protocol messages by using WebSocket connection. Now here we are having an intermediate layer. We are having an intermediate layer called drivers, browser drivers here. So this is not the case in Playwright. So we are not going to have any drivers, guys. So we are going to directly communicate with the Playwright server, and the Playwright server is going to take care of uh, uh, executing the actions in the browsers. So this was an extra layer that we have made in the Selenium. So this is guys, this is pretty simple about Selenium architecture and the Playwright Selenium architecture versus Playwright architecture. Now, if you see the main differences with the Selenium and Playwright, everyone will tell that Selenium was very slow. Not slow, when it compared to Playwright, it was slow. Correct. So the Playwright was fast, somewhat faster. Let's say if the test script will take 10 seconds here, the same test scripts will take only 5 seconds here. What makes the difference? So that was our next topic, guys. So the second topic that I have mentioned in our agenda, which is how these protocols and how fast the Selenium is going to communicate with this. So here you are seeing that one extra layer, right? So for this extra layer, it will take some time. So this is the first thing that will take some time. Correct? Huh? So we are having some browser drivers here. So we are not going to communicate. So these protocol messages are directly sending to the browsers through this particular Playwright server. Now this is not a stage. This is actually server. So these browser drivers, the server here in this middle, we are going to have Selenium server also. The Selenium server will communicate with the browser drivers, and browser drivers will convert with the browsers. Now this is an extra step which makes Selenium slower when compared to the Playwright. Now, our second agenda that we have discussed previously, I'm going to tell that agenda. So, once after explaining that agenda, you will come to know why Selenium is slower when compared to the Playwright. Yes. So, this is the first one, guys. This is our first one that I have discussed in my agenda. Now I'm going to explain you about the second thing. Yes. Here I'm going to tell you about the second thing of our agenda, which is how the communication is going to be happen. Sorry, 1 minute. Let me change the color of the pen. Yes. Now, so how the client and server are going to communicate with the Playwright and Selenium. So client and server communication in Playwright versus Selenium. Playwright versus Selenium. Correct. So this is the thing. So I have already told you that we are going to have some 100 lines of code. Let me first talk about the Selenium, guys. Yes. So I'm having some 100 lines of code. 100 lines of code in a test script. So I'm having a test script and I'm having 100 lines of code. Now the Selenium client libraries are going to come into the picture here. Correct. So the Selenium client libraries came into the picture. Let's say it was the Selenium client library of Java. So this is the client library of Selenium. Now, this client library of the Selenium is going to convert all our test scripts commands into HTTP request, right? So as I am having 100 lines of code, my 100 lines of hundreds of HTTP requests, 100 lines of HTTP requests are going to be communicated. Dash. Let's say 100. So 100 HTTP requests are created. Now these will be sent to the Selenium server. So let's say this is our Selenium server. What server? Our Selenium server. This is our Selenium server. This is Selenium. And this is client and this is server. Now, these all the HTTP requests are going to be sent through this server by using W3C protocol. Right. So whenever a HTTP request has been sent to this particular server, a connection has been created. A connection will get created. Sorry, let me. Yes, yes. So whenever we have sent a request, a HTTP request to the server, a connection has been made. So here a connection will get made with the client and server. So the server is going to give the same command to the browser and it will get back. So once after executing this command, the server will give the response to our first uh, HTTP request. Once after sending back, the connection will get closed. Here the connection will get created and back the connection will get closed. Now the same thing is going to happen with our second request. So what it is going to do, the HTTP request, the second line of the code will be converted into HTTP request, right? So the HTTP request will be given to the server by creating a connection. Here the connection has been created. Once after executing this command in the real browser, the server is going to get back the response, right? So now it will get back the response, right? So once again, whatever the connection that has been opened for the second HTTP request, that will get closed here. Right. Next, the third one. So let's say I am sending the third HTTP request. Right. The new connection will be opened and it will be communicated to the server. The server will talk to the browser and browser will get back to the response to the server and the server will again give response to the client. The client uh, so and one more time the connection is going to be closed, right? So like this, if you are having 100 lines of code, 100 HTTP requests are going to be created and 100 connections are going to be created at the same time. These 100 connections will going to be closed. Yes. So this is the internal thing that is going to happen in Selenium. But what is the case? What is the case with the Playwright? Let me discuss that. right. So now let me discuss the same thing with the playwright case. So playwright, right. Now here also we are going to have some our own test script. Let's say it is also having some 100 lines of code, guys. Right. So let's say I will have some client libraries, right? Yes, I'm going to have some client libraries for each and every tool that I'm using. Let's say this client library was JavaScript language. So don't confuse guy why I'm using Java here and why I'm using JavaScript here. Just I'm taking the hottest combination of tool and the language. Though Selenium is the hottest combination with Java. So and the Playwright is the hottest combination with JavaScript and PlayScript. So that's why I'm taking the different languages. You can take any other language you want. Right. So here it was Playwright. Right. Now all these JavaScript connections, all our commands of our code will get converted into some protocol messages like JSON objects, right? So hundreds of, let's say, same likewise here. So 100 JSONs will be get created for me. This is the first JSON, this is the second JSON, and this is the third JSON, and this is the fourth JSON, and so on, so on. 100 JSON will be get created. Now I have told you here in this particular thing, through WebSocket connection, it is going to be communicate with the server. So, what makes the difference with HTTP request and the HTTP request and WebSocket connection in the sense? WebSocket connection is an handshake connection, guys. So once we get handshake with the server, it is not going to close the connection till the end of the execution of the test script. Here, what exactly is going to be happen whenever our first JSON object is going to be transmitted. So this is the first thing, right? Whenever that first test uh, first JSON file is sent from the Selenium client library to the Playwright server, sorry, Playwright client library to the Playwright server, a connection will get created. So here, so one connection channel will get created and it will shake the hand with, the server will shake the hand with client. This is Playwright server, right? So this connection is not going to be this connection is not going to be terminated till the end of this 100 line. So this is called as handshake thing or WebSocket. This is the best thing about this connection, WebSocket connection. So the connection is not going to be terminated until unless a client or server is going to close the server by its own. And here, one more thing is it is also called a bidirectional uh, connection. So let's say here we are sending our JSON object first JSON object to the server, and the server is going to communicate with the browser. And now, as this connection is still opened, it is not getting terminated. The same response will get back from the browser to the server and server to the client library in the same connection that have been made. So for the 100 length of command also, for the 100th line of command also, the same connection that has been opened at the uh, first line of our command or code will be sent back to the client. So in the same connection, by using the same connection that has been opened in the first line of our command will be used to the 100 lines of our command also. So once after the test script got done, so there is nothing to send. So the client will send, okay, everything was done. So let's terminate. So now this connection is going to get terminated. So this makes the difference between uh, sending the protocols from client to server, guys. So as it is, let me tell you why the 80% of the concept is why Selenium is more sorry, why Playwright is more faster than Selenium. You can able to understand here, right? So I will tell you anyway. So to get So to build the connection and send it back to the server and close the connection and build the connection, close the connection, build the connection, close the connection. So this is going to be happen for 100 times. Let's say my connection is going to be created for 100 times and closed to be closed for the 100 times. Total 200 times my connection is going to be built and closed. So but here my connection is going to be happen for only one more time, closed for one more time, and going to be closed for one more time. Only the two times that connection is getting built, right? So what is the difference between 2 and 200? It's 198 times. So that's why Selenium is faster. So because of this WebSocket connection or handshake mechanism connection, so the play rate is pretty much faster when compared to the Selenium. I'm not telling Selenium is slow, but when compared to the Playwright, the Selenium is slow. So this makes the difference between Selenium architecture and the Playwright architecture, and Playwright faster than Selenium while executing a test script. So now you got answer about the discussed thing here. See, let's say I have told here that let's take if I take a test scripts which will execute in 10 seconds in the Selenium, that will take only 5 seconds in the Playwright architecture. Why? Because of this mechanism that is following by the JavaScript and sorry Playwright, right? So this makes the difference between the connection of Selenium and Playwright case. Now, so these are the two things. Now the third thing I am going to explain you is stateless and stateful. What is stateless and stateful? So the 50% of this concept also I have explained you in the previous thing only. So let me tell you that. What is that in the sense? So like stateless connection versus stateful connection, right? So what is stateless connection and what is stateful connection? I will tell you. I will tell you by taking this example only. So let's say my connection is getting created for the first command and closing for the first command. And this uh, connection is getting building for the second test command and the getting to be closed for the second command. So the browser is not, so the server is not going to remember whether the connection has been opened for the first command or not. It is going to get created and closed for each and HTTP request in Selenium. So as it is not remembering the state of the first connection or the state of the second connection or the state of the third connection, the connection which was made in the Selenium is called as stateless connection. So it's not going to be remember. It's not going to be remember how many connections have been made. It doesn't matter for that. For each and every HTTP request, a new connection is going to be get opened, and the same connection is going to be get terminated with a particular uh, HTTP request itself. This is called as stateless. Now, this is completely different whenever it comes to the Playwright. What it will get happen for the first time if the connection has been built, right? If the connection has been built with server and client, this will get not terminated. This won't get forgot. The server or the client won't get forgot about this opened connection. Opened connection. So as it is not going to forget, as it is not going to terminate until the execution of the 100th line or until the execution of the last line of your code. So as it is remembering this, as it is remembering the state. So here we are calling it as stateful connection. So here the connection state, whatever the connection state is there, that is not going to be remembered by the browser, sorry, by the server or the client. So that is, we are calling it a stateless connection. So there is no state here. So here the status of that particular connection, whatever that happened, so it will be remembered. It will be remembered by both client and server till the appeal come from the server or the client to terminate that particular connection. So this is called as stateful connection. Nothing is there in this case. So I have explained you the third point of our today's agenda in second point itself. Right, understood, right? So this is guys, so this is pretty simple about our today's lecture. So that I am going to discuss. You can see one more time here that Selenium architecture versus Playwright architecture in one screen. Selenium architecture versus Playwright architecture, what makes the difference and why it is slow and why it is. And so see, one more thing. This is the first layer that we are getting, and this is the big adding the big difference why this playwright is going to execute very faster. So this entire thing is the second big difference where the time has been uh, get enlarged with the Selenium, right? So we are having some extra layer here of browsers, and here we are uh, closing and building connection for each and every HTTP request. This will take some time, right? And as here also it is taking some more time. So this time got missed and taken some more long time. Here it's not the case. Here we are not having this layer, and we are not going to take this much time what the Selenium is going to take. So this makes Playwright very faster, guys. So this is one of the major differences between our Selenium and Selenium versus Playwright. So the Playwright is slow in execution, and the Selenium is going to be slow in our execution, and Playwright is going to be very fast in our execution. This is the one major difference. And one more difference you can see, this is a stateless. This will make a stateless connection, and the Playwright will get a stateful connection. Right. And one more difference you can see here, the HTTP requests are going to be created here for each and every command of our code. Here some JSON type of protocol messages are going to be created. Anyway, I'm going to take one more lecture on the Selenium versus Playwright. So what are the main differences between Selenium and Playwright? I'm having one really good picture with me so that I will showcase you the things and I will explain you. But do remember these things as I have told you. Uh, the differences, three differences here, I am not going to much explain over there. So you can say this, you can see here the Playwright is very fast. Why the Playwright is very fast and why Selenium is slow when compared to uh, Playwright, and you can see the difference between stateless connection and the stateful connection. And you can see here all the commands in our code are going to be converted into HTTP request, and all our Playwright commands in our code are going to be converted into protocol JSON protocol messages. So these are the main differences between Selenium and Playwright architecture, and we are having some multiple differences also. I'm going to get back with you with one more video by explaining all those things, but do remember this. So in one shot, I have explained you about these three things, guys. So this is for today's class, and let's meet with another lecture in our another class. So until then, take care. Bye bye. So please do subscribe. Please watch and like my content and share with your friends. It will be very beneficial for them. And subscribe my channel so that you will get the latest updates very quickly through the notifications. And if you are having any doubts, please uh, comment those things. I am going to explain you in a very quick way. So until then, bye guys. Good night.